who is CEO of Featureform. Please welcome Featureform, everyone.
Now? Oh, cool, I can hear myself. Hello, I'm Simba. Thanks for you all for being here. I'm about to present Featureform, the virtual feature store. We're back there if you want to meet with us after. Our goal is to become the HashiCorp of MLOps. The term Featureform is a nod to Terraform. So, features, I'm not talking about product features, I'm talking about model features. Features and input that goes into a model. If I'm Spotify, I'm making a music recommendation, I might want to know the top song you listen to, your favorite genre of this month, your favorite playlist this week. Those are all called features. Now, turns out that unlike the Coursera class we all took, it doesn't come in a nice, perfect CSV for us. We have to go and write our own data transformations with Kafka, Snowflake, etc. to build our features. Turns out that most of the value, like most of the productivity we got to increasing our ML systems performance comes from feature engineering. The buzzword is data-centric AI. So yeah, that's kind of the state of ML. How we actually do it as data scientists is we're using our Jupyter notebooks. How many of you today, or like in the past week, have copy and pasted between some untitled Jupyter notebooks? So thank you for raising your hand. Those who haven't aren't data scientists or are lying, because we all do it. We used to have Google Docs as SQL snippets. Like that's just kind of the reality of data scientists now, or of data science nowadays. We have our own bash scripts to actually like run the stuff, get our transformations going, like watch our Spark jobs and like hope they succeed, and they go into Redis, and we cross our fingers and push to prod. Not on Fridays. And that's kind of where we're at nowadays. So that was the big problem we had. The big problem we found is that we're copy and pasting our notebooks. We were using bash scripts to like kind of make all these things in the state we needed them in. And we ended up with stuff that looks like this. There's one person laughing, so someone gets it. And I promised I would show code. I know it's not really readable, but I just wanted to show some code. Imagine a world where this is all declarative. You say, these are I'm using Dynamo, I'm using Spark. Here's where they are. My transformation is this PySpark snippet. It's called X, it's versioned this way, it takes this as an input. You're essentially declaratively defining your sources, transformations, features, labels, etc. They're kind of all up here. And yeah, once you do that, we do two things. We do the metadata and orchestration. We do stuff like governance and other things, but you can kind of think of us as you're giving us your desired state. We'll store that, make it shareable, reusable, and then we'll orchestrate your infrastructure to get to that desired state. So where it gets really interesting is in the enterprise use cases we have. I'll use Salesforce as an analogy. Like Salesforce for a single salesperson or like a team of salespeople is essentially an organizational tool with some automations. Now the reason why Salesforce has a giant tower is worth over $100 billion is because people build on top of those abstractions. In their case, like a lead, account, an opportunity, etc. And they will essentially put their sales lifecycle onto Salesforce. In our world, the abstractions are features, transformations, labels, training sets. And the life cycle might be things like with a bank, we have it so that they have to have legal check it off before a feature can go in production. There are some features that can't be used in Europe. There are some features that can't be used by models that we tagged as marketing models. All of that stuff can exist as policies within the feature store. And that's kind of where that extra value comes in. The feature store becomes the crux where your feature lifecycle lives. So we're not the first feature store. Maybe you've heard of Feast, maybe you've heard of Tecton. Just to kind of go into how the world looks, what's differentiation. I have a big blog post. You can look up Featureform. I think it's called 3 Types of Architectures. And I go deeper into this. You can kind of imagine as such, like Feast doesn't really do the transformation piece, so you're still doing your own transformations, then writing into Feast. Tecton does the transformations, but in Tecton's case, it also owns the infrastructure. That's why we call it the physical feature store. There's kind of two problems to be solved. There's the platform problem and the ops problem. The platform problem is being able to handle 100 terabytes of data, streaming, 10 millisecond latency serving, and the ops problem, which is everything I talked about, like versioning, managing, sharing, governance, etc. A lot of companies and MLOps, and like Tecton's case, we try to solve both. By being virtual, we bring the feature store abstraction to your infrastructure. We have a company, a large enterprise, a large plane or airline that you might have heard of, that uses Snowflake, Spark, and Flink for transformations. So we sit on top of all of them, and we still provide this unified abstraction layer. It gives us low adoption cost. You kind of just like deploy on the Kubernetes, you configure your infrastructure, and you can start defining these things. And it lets you choose the best-in-class infrastructure. Another company, they are a big gaming company. They have Cassandra highly tuned for serving. And they were looking at SageMaker. They decided not to go with SageMaker, or we're still deciding, but they will likely not go with SageMaker because SageMaker is on top of Dynamo. And Dynamo wasn't able to reach what they needed at the price that they wanted at. They already have Cassandra. They've already solved the platform problem. So they just bring us on top and we provide that whole abstraction, the virtual feature store. It's open source, so everything I've talked about is kind of theoretical. So I thought I'd just put a giant QR code on the screen and you can scan it and check it out yourself. Thank you. Oh, also we have a happy hour tonight at 6 p.m. with Pachyderm and Y Labs. If you want to learn more, you can just come by our booth and I'll give you a ticket.
So it sounds like you already have a partnership with Snowflake. You work with them?
We support Snowflake. I've talked to everyone, like I know all the companies. We're not in like an official, like they've officially chosen Snowflake, Databricks officially chose Tecton as their kind of public partners, but we support both of them and we have customers that use us in Snowflake.
Okay. Oh, one question I had for you for the feature store and the feature engineering, do you have plans to help with some of the collaboration that happens between the business side and the engineering side? Because traditionally, some of this stuff is done in a silo with engineering where they don't involve the business as much.
Yeah, so there's kind of a concept of like a metric store, which kind of is like a feature store, but more generic. The big difference with the metric stores, they don't really worry about serving for like training and serving. So we've seen people actually using us for business use cases. That's especially in the open source, like we've seen that use case. To be honest, we're still figuring out what we should do there. We don't want to like expand our scope too much. We're trying to focus on the use case we know very well. But it is architecturally very doable. It's more just like, do we want to bite off that big a chunk today, or should we start with our bread and butter and kind of continue to grow?
Okay. And what's the stage of the company? How much have you raised? How many employees do you have?
Yeah, we've raised a little over 2 million. We are 6 people, small team. Yeah, stages company.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Simba. Can you expand on what's your view on the competition in the space? We keep hearing about Matrix Layer, Tecton, Feast you mentioned, but what's your view on how the space would evolve? Whether you think of data warehouse players will go there, or DBT will start, playing in the space. So what's your?
Yeah, great question. So there's a lot of kind of ways to look at it, will data ops eat MLOps? There's a perspective of both the data warehouses built on feature stores, or some of them have, Databricks has a feature store. My view is still it's still the Terraform analogy. What Terraform did really well, they built a point solution. They were very clear on what they did. And I think there's two problems to be solved by a company. There's either technology problems or workflow problems. Technology problems are like Snowflake, the same thing, but better technology, just better than, let's say, Redshift. Whereas the workflow problems are API design problems. Those problems are hard, and you can't really scale them out by headcount. You can't just hire 1,000 people and build a better API. So I think that the problem space is typically something with DevOps, most of the winners essentially end up being like APIs. They end up being like workflow tools. And I think the same thing will play out in ML. I think there will be like kind of these platformy things that everyone, and our goal is to not try to build a full-on end-to-end MLOps platform that does everything, compute and serving and you name it, but to be very specific in that, hey, we are the best workflow for the feature lifecycle.
Can you share what kind of milestones do you anticipate to hit before your next round?
Yes. It's only complicated because the question is when's our next round, which is soon. And so, in general, like I'll tell you myself, we have hit and where we see the company going. So we have hit having large multinational companies paying for us, as well as stars paying for us. We have over 1,000 stars on GitHub. We have a large growing community. Our goal now is to, the more generic goal, I think MLOps tools in general, there's a lot of them, you've all seen tons of them, right? There's very few tools, in my opinion, that people love. Like they actually love. They want to go use it, they bring it everywhere they go. A lot of tools that people use. And so all I think about, like what's going to make us win or not win isn't like, our revenue growth yesterday, it's not what, all that stuff's important, but really what's going to make us win is building a product that people, data scientists actually love to use. And part of how we've done that is we have local mode. So even without any compute, you can just use this to organize yourself locally. So some people will just start there. We really think about the data science like workflow, like the iteration, that part, the experimentation is a core piece of the feature store. It's not just about production.
And maybe this is a follow-on, it might be a tough question, but how do customers measure ROI?
Yeah, great question. We ask this to everyone, right? Like it's part of our sales process. Essentially the ROI is data science productivity, like how productive do they feel like they're being? How do you measure that? I don't know. It's like how do you measure software engineer productivity? But they can tell. So it's a little bit like qualitative. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of generally what it is. Like we actually, so business model wise, one thing that's unique about us, we actually charge per seat. Because our value prop is for data scientists, right? This is for the enterprise, we're obviously open source. Enterprise, we have governance, access control, stuff that you would need if you're an enterprise. That's not open source. Everything else is open source. But yeah, we charge per seat, and I think that really like kind of maybe frames how we think about the value we provide.
All right, just one question from our audience. 1 second.
I love this product. I think the feature store is hasn't really been well developed yet, and so I'm excited to see what you're doing. One of the things that I didn't hear you talk about was keeping score of the usefulness and popularity of the different features that get created. Do you guys do that? Is that part of your life cycle? So I could say these are the 15 most valuable variables in my data warehouse kind of thing?
Yeah, we're, I love that you asked that question because this is like literally something I was talking about like last week, like with our team. The short answer is it's very much on what we're thinking about, right? The way we do it now is really simple. It's just the most used features just go up higher on our UI. We can do a lot more there. We're 6 people, so we're kind of trying to like balance the thing, but it's very much very core to what we think a feature store should do. One thing we do though, which we show somewhere, is we have visibility. So you can have global features, team features, and so we can expand on that and be a little smarter than just having them tag it, but this is kind of where we're starting. But thank you.
Everyone, please give it up for Simba and his team at Featureform. Thank you, Simba. Excellent presentation.